The official story of the United States government's investigation into unidentified flying objects is a complex narrative, shrouded in secrecy and controversy. This story truly begins in the post-World War II era, a time of technological advancement and Cold War paranoia. The public's imagination was captured by a new and bewildering phenomenon: objects in the sky that defied conventional explanation. On June 24, 1947, private pilot Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 crescent-shaped objects flying at incredible speeds near Mount Rainier, Washington. Arnold's description of the object's movement, like a saucer skipping across water, gave birth to the enduring term flying saucer. This single event triggered a nationwide wave of similar reports, flooding law enforcement and military offices with calls. The U.S. Air Force, tasked with protecting the nation's airspace, could not ignore the growing hysteria. In response, the Air Force initiated Project Sign at the end of 1947 to collect and evaluate the data on these sightings. The project's initial team was composed of engineers and officers at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. They approached the problem with a degree of open-mindedness, considering all possibilities, including extraterrestrial origins. This led to their controversial estimate of the situation, a top-secret document that concluded the flying saucers were real and likely interplanetary craft. However, this conclusion was swiftly rejected and ordered destroyed by the Air Force Chief of Staff, General Hoyt Vandenberg. The official reason for the rejection was a cited lack of physical proof. Following this internal conflict, Project Sign was dissolved and replaced in 1949 by Project Grudge. Project Grudge operated under a new, unspoken mandate: to debunk UFO reports, not to investigate them. The quality of investigations plummeted, with most cases being dismissed as misidentifications or hoaxes without thorough analysis. The project's final report in 1949 concluded that UFOs were simply a form of mass hysteria and misinterpretation. Yet, the sightings did not stop. In fact, they seemed to be increasing in frequency and credibility. A high-profile incident in August 1951, the Lubbock Lights, challenged the debunking narrative. Multiple professors from Texas Technical College witnessed and even photographed these strange lights. Official explanations settled on birds reflecting city lights, a conclusion many found unsatisfactory. The inadequacy of Project Grudge became undeniable, prompting another reorganization. In 1952, Project Blue Book was officially born, rising from the ashes of its predecessors. Its first director, Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, was a decorated World War II veteran determined to conduct a serious scientific investigation. Ruppelt coined the term unidentified flying object, or UFO, to replace the sensationalism of flying saucer. He standardized reporting procedures and developed a questionnaire for witnesses to fill out. One of the most significant events during Ruppelt's tenure occurred in July 1952 over Washington, D.C. For 2 consecutive weekends, unidentified targets appeared on radar screens at multiple airports and military bases. Fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the objects, but the targets would vanish as the jets approached, only to reappear later. The incidents caused a national panic and resulted in the largest press conference held by the Air Force since World War II. The official explanation blamed a temperature inversion, a weather phenomenon that can cause radar anomalies. However, many pilots and radar operators involved in the incident rejected this explanation. The Washington flap prompted the Central Intelligence Agency to take a serious interest in the UFO phenomenon. They convened the Robertson Panel, a group of esteemed scientists, to assess the situation. The panel met for only a few days and reviewed a handful of the best cases selected by the Air Force. Their conclusion was that UFOs did not pose a direct threat to national security. They also recommended a public relations campaign to debunk UFOs and reduce public interest. This recommendation marked a turning point for Project Blue Book, shifting its focus back towards public relations. Captain Ruppelt left the project, disillusioned with the new direction and the lack of scientific rigor. Throughout the 1950s, Project Blue Book continued to investigate cases, but with dwindling resources and support. The project's scientific consultant was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer from Ohio State University. Initially a skeptic, Hynek was hired to provide scientific explanations for UFO sightings. He dutifully identified stars, planets, and weather balloons as the culprits in many cases. However, over the years, Hynek's position began to change as he encountered cases that defied easy explanation. The 1957 Leveland, Texas case involved multiple witnesses whose car engines and lights failed in the presence of a glowing object. Blue Book's official explanation was ball lightning, despite the dry weather conditions at the time. Hynek privately expressed his doubts about the official conclusions in many such cases. He felt the Air Force was more interested in closing cases than in solving them. By the 1960s, public trust in the official investigation was eroding significantly. A major sighting wave in 1965 and 1966 brought the issue to a head once again. In Portage County, Ohio, several police officers chased a large, bright object for over half an hour across state lines. In Michigan, dozens of witnesses, including police officers, reported seeing strange lights and objects. Dr. Hynek was sent to investigate and held a press conference to deliver the official explanation. He famously suggested the Michigan sightings could be attributed to swamp gas. Swamp gas explanation was widely ridiculed and became a public relations disaster for the Air Force. This event led to congressional hearings on the UFO subject, spearheaded by then-Congressman Gerald Ford. The pressure from Congress forced the Air Force to commission an independent scientific study. The study was awarded to the University of Colorado and was led by physicist Dr. Edward U. Condon Day. The Condon Committee, as it came to be known, was plagued by internal conflict and accusations of bias from the start. A leaked memo revealed that the committee had decided on its negative conclusion before the investigation had even begun. Despite investigating dozens of cases, the final Condon report, published in 1968, concluded that the study of UFOs had not yielded anything of scientific value. It recommended that the Air Force terminate its official investigation into the phenomenon. Based on this recommendation, Project Blue Book was officially shut down on December 17, 1969. The project's final tally was 12,618 sightings investigated over its 17-year history. Of these, 701 cases remained listed as unidentified. The Air Force's official conclusion was that no UFO ever posed a threat to national security. They also stated there was no evidence that the unidentified objects were extraterrestrial or represented advanced technology. For many, the story did not end there. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, freed from his Air Force obligations, became a vocal critic of the official investigation. He founded the Center for UFO Studies, UFOs, to continue the scientific investigation that he felt Blue Book had failed to conduct. Hynek argued that while the majority of cases were explainable, a small percentage of residuals warranted serious study. Critics of Project Blue Book point to it as a prime example of a government cover-up. They argue that its true purpose was not investigation, but public pacification and data obfuscation. The 701 unidentified cases remain a tantalizing mystery for researchers and the public. These cases include reports from credible witnesses like pilots, police officers, and military personnel. The files of Project Blue Book, now declassified and available to the public, offer a fascinating glimpse into a unique period of history. They reveal a government struggling to understand a phenomenon that challenged its technological and scientific paradigms. The debate continues to this day. Were they simply lights in the sky? Or was the government hiding a profound truth? Legacy of Project Blue Book is not in the answers it provided, but in the questions it left behind. It serves as a cautionary tale about the intersection of science, military authority, and public perception. The secret files may be open, but the ultimate mystery remains unsolved, forever captured in the grainy, black and white photos of the past. The official narrative maintains that there is nothing to see, just misidentification and natural phenomena. Yet, the sheer volume of reports suggests a more complex reality was at play. Pilots reported objects maneuvering at speeds and angles impossible for conventional aircraft. The Kinross incident in 1953 saw an F-89 Scorpion jet disappear while intercepting a UFO over Lake Superior. The official report claimed the jet had crashed after misidentifying a Royal Canadian Air Force plane. However, the Canadian government denied having any aircraft in that sector at the time. The case, like many others, was officially closed, but the questions lingered for decades. Project Blue Book's methodology was often criticized as science by decree. Explanations were often forced to fit the data, no matter how improbable. The infamous swamp gases incident is a perfect example of this flawed approach. The pressure to provide mundane explanations often overruled genuine scientific curiosity. Many investigators within the project felt their hands were tied by their superiors. They were tasked with managing a problem rather than solving a mystery. This created a deep-seated distrust between the public and the government on this issue. The termination of Blue Book did not end the sightings. It only ended the official collection of them. Civilian UFO groups emerged to fill the void left by the Air Force's withdrawal. These groups, like MUFON and NICAP, continued to gather reports and investigate sightings. They argued that the phenomenon was real and deserved continued, unbiased study. The government's official stance remained unchanged for decades. UFOs are not real. This created a cultural schism, where belief in UFOs was often relegated to the fringe. Yet, the 701 unidentified cases from the Blue Book era refused to disappear. They represent a statistical anomaly that has never been adequately explained away. Was Project Blue Book a genuine, if flawed, attempt to understand a mystery? Or was it an elaborate piece of theater designed to control public perception? Truth likely lies somewhere in the murky gray area between these two extremes. It began with earnest inquiry, as seen in the early days of Project Sign. It then devolved into a debunking exercise under Project Grudge. Blue Book itself was a hybrid, a battleground between genuine investigators and PR-focused commanders. The pressure to provide answers, any answers, was immense. The Cold War context cannot be overstated. Any unidentified object in the sky was a potential Soviet threat. This fear of a terrestrial enemy may have blinded them to other possibilities. The government's primary goal was to prevent mass panic, a goal that often superseded the search for truth. The Condon Report provided the perfect, scientifically endorsed excuse to end the program. It allowed the Air Force to wash its hands of a problem that had become a public relations nightmare. But history has a long memory, and the questions posed by Blue Book have resurfaced in the 21st century. The phenomenon of unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs, is once again a topic of official government discussion. It seems the book on this topic was not closed in 1969, after all. Ghosts of those 701 unidentified cases still haunt the archives of American history. Each one represents a moment when our understanding of the world, was briefly and profoundly challenged. The files document the human element, the fear, wonder, and confusion of the witnesses. They also document the institutional response, the skepticism, the secrecy, and the spin. Whether it was a story of government lies or a genuine failure to solve a mystery depends on who you ask. The files themselves offer evidence for both interpretations. Perhaps the most profound secret is that the authorities were just as baffled as the public. They were faced with a phenomenon that fit no known category. Their response was to build a wall of denial and official explanation. That wall began to crumble almost as soon as it was built. The legacy of Project Blue Book is a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. It reminds us that not all questions have easy answers, and that sometimes the official story is only the beginning of the real story. The search for truth continues, driven by the echoes of the past. Those echoes can still be heard in the declassified files of Project Blue Book. A story of lights in the sky and shadows in the halls of power.